I think that the difficulty that I have personally is where pieces of equipment right towards the end of my time become driven substantially by software. Okay, and if something goes wrong with the software, then to be honest about it, the only person who can deal with that is the original manufacturer. And sometimes we have to update software on something like a power supply, electrolysis power supply. Those are huge changes from the original type of analog devices that I was dealing with, and that's a major change in the short time, 30 years that I've been there, from when I started with Trevor. Yes, I've made one or two bits of equipment which have been very simple, to be honest with you, which have made changes. Simple timing devices which have reduced the run time for lamps, for microscopes, all those sort of things which are very, very simple devices which have been put on to pieces of equipment, additions to, which have saved money. That's one thing. Simple addition to the devices which we use for Drosophila, for anaesthetising Drosophila, simply making a device which, instead of the carbon dioxide which is used for anaesthetic with Drosophila running constantly and therefore costing lots of money and lots of cylinders, simply putting the ability for the operator to use time. And that has been quite a substantial thing, I think, as far as that's concerned. Got to know a young student who was doing some early work on the photographing of fetal hearts, I think. And he was having a problem illuminating these cross sections sufficiently to make good copy for his filing. Anyway, we were talking one day and I went over to see what he was doing, and he was concerned that he shouldn't be throwing too much heat, the red end of the light spectrum, onto the sample, because it would cause it to melt and be a problem cutting. And he was trying to illuminate, I think, using the blue end of the spectrum, which was causing a problem because he couldn't get enough light. Anyway, I'm not very heavily into optics, but I had remembered that a company called Schott, who make microscope lights, used to have built into all their systems an infrared filter. So I said, I'm not sure that I know what I'm talking about, but I do know a man who does. And I went and spoke to a colleague of mine, a chap called Rod Chillingworth. And Rod came over, and within an hour, we had enormous amounts of light being thrown onto this young man's samples. And we simply cobbled something together using what we had available and a big piece of glass which would absorb the infrared, and his samples were fine. And that's fairly typical of the sort of thing which you could bump into. And what was important there was actually he was a cyclist and I was a cyclist, and we used to chat about cycling, and then we just got into the conversation about what he was doing, and I got interested, and then we had and then the chance conversation came along and we solved a problem. And to be honest about it, I could expand that to conversations that happened at the bar at NIMR in the evening. You would see senior scientists having a huddle and sorting out problems and that sort of thing. And I do think that the environment that allows you to have casual conversations, which can lead to productive conversations, actually is a very important thing. And I've thoroughly enjoyed those exciting moments when we've turned a corner in a serendipity way because I've repaired somebody's puncture or something. That I think is quite exciting. Yeah.